Hello. So today I'm speaking and movementless yoga. When I'm speaking in terms of movementless yoga, foundational yoga, you cannot see me doing anything because it's not like you're posing and doing stuff. Now, I've been speaking about this in previous videos too. But what is not obvious in those videos is that I'm talking. I'm talking in all of those videos, and I'm talking about movementless yoga. Talk is not something that happens usually when people are doing, say, yogasana or different kinds of practices, meditation, for example. Chanting, people may be using mantras, but talking may not be regarded as part of a yogic practice. When we are having conversations with people, it is possible for us to build relationships, bridge gaps, or even gap bridges. Because if something's a little too like that, you do need to speak in such a way that you begin to discern. It's not just, oh, oneness, just one big chapati, yeah? To, to appreciate the different parts, you do need to gap the bridges, yeah? And sometimes you do need to bridge the gaps. So you bring disparate things together, aspects together, and then bring a little bit of union. How we speak can bring about yoga or can bring about dissociation. Yeah, things going not so fine. Shabda kosha, or the sounds we use, how we speak, how is the pronunciation? And it's not about intention, having an intention inside and then speaking it and then words will follow. No, every word we use, when it's in sync with other words we use, how we speak, how are we communicating? Now, you could talk in terms of intention. Now, that would be, when you talk in terms of intention, that would be part of what a wise person has said as time can be measured in terms of Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, Para. Now, if you consider that Vaikhari is, Vaikhari is said to be, for example, what is spoken. There are other connotations to it, but Vaikhari is, according to that person, said is spoken. Madhyama is, for example, you're thinking words. Yeah, you're not speaking it. It's non-verbal, but you're thinking. Say you're chanting a mantra, and you're chanting that mantra in your mind. You're not speaking it out. You're chanting it in your mind. But silently, non-verbally, you're saying that. That is said to be madhyama. Um, Pashyanti is when you visualize the aspects, the content of those of that mantra, for example, or what becomes associated with that mantra, which may not be directly related to the sounds of it, but how you understand it in a visual format. Yeah, is said to be what is Pashyanti. And para is where you're not even chanting it, nor are you non-verbally telling it in your mind, nor are you seeing it. But there's a certain intention of it. It's a certain energetic sense of it. That is what that person told. Now, if you think of the intention of it, even when you're, say, wanting to attempt a task, you intend to complete a project, or you intend to cook something, or you intend to, well, in this case, I'm making a video, intend to communicate an aspect of movementless yoga. Yeah, an aspect of um, yoga where you're not actually doing a lot of postures or breathing practices or meditation, but I'm saying it's a conglomerate where you're doing all of this ashtanga without moving a muscle, or the different aspects of what has been associated with yoga. Yeah, where I'm saying when you're practicing in particular ways, you can have the benefits of yoga. It's a different paradigm. It's foundational, but it also brings about several aspects together in one conglomerate, multifaceted practice that then moves through stages of development. Yeah. Yeah, and without moving a muscle, but you're also doing it while you're going about your daily activities. For example, while I'm making a video, while I'm writing, while I'm eating, it's possible to bring about better health without having to. It may not look like I'm doing yoga. For example, when I'm speaking, how I speak can bring things together, bring to attention something that you have never had any reason to think about, but also in a way that has your life become better, has you have content which makes life simpler, but also profounder. Yeah. Now, in that sense, that's also para. Vaikhari madhyama pashanti para. Vaikhari, if you're going to speak it of as spoken, I may not be chanting mantras, but I'm speaking in such a way that it invokes a certain response, which is harmonious, but it's also makes life have a certain sense, um, which may not be simple. If I'm going to be chanting mantras to you and you don't understand anything, that would also be a certain form of practice, but not necessarily um, something that brings about certain other benefits which is possible in normal, ordinary, harmonious living. It would be maybe part of yantra, mantra, tantra practices. And you might even call me names, yeah, if I'm going to be talking in mantras. But in that sense, Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, Para. Para, if you're going to think of it as intention, I intend to communicate an aspect of yoga, and that may not be being heard, but in the way I move my muscles and how I do things, it may be there. But then there's the essence of it. For example, there's this idea of trataka, yeah, where you're, say, for example, looking at a diya, a light, and you're focusing on it so that your attention is not deviating, yeah. Or it would also be good to train your eyes because your eyes tend to flicker like that. And this would, paying attention to a light would bring about stability of your eyes. And there has been said to be trauma healing possibilities when you're, say, paying attention to a light and your eyes goes through micro flickerings, but also helps to heal what your eyes have been going through in some traumatic practices. So to then recover from that. So there are many benefits like that. But Tritaka, if you're not going to be looking at a light, and instead you're imagining a light, they even say, imagine a light about here. And then you take it further, where you have a sense of a light, but you're not seeing a light, you're not imagining a light, but have, say, a sense of warmth. For example, your body has warmth. So if you think of it that way, and warmth about this place, which is also a form of a different aspect of Tritaka. Yeah. In which case the meaning of Tritaka changes. Yeah. It may not be just an eye practice, but then what an eye is changes. And then there is a sense of what is other than light or imagining a light or the sensory experience of a light to what does the whole practice bring in a sense? Yeah. To not even having that, to it being a way of how you do things, where you have the essence of the practice without having to look at a light or imagine or feel that. Yeah. That would be a finer aspect of yoga, where you don't have to do asanas, but you have the essence of the practice. And that's what I'm talking about here. Okay. When I'm saying movementless yoga, and I'm saying a body is already having movements, even if you don't move a muscle. Our heart beats, our lungs expand and contract. Pulse does that. Muscles are breathing, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, they are breathing. In an alive body, they're all breathing. We may or may not be able to feel the movement of the muscles, cells, tissues, organs, but some organs we can. For example, we can feel the movement of the lungs, and we know for sure that lungs breathe. Yeah, help us breathe. When we can be a little more tuned to what our body is already doing, then we are a little more in sync with a different form of yoga, in the sense, the yoga or the blessing in having a body that's human itself. Because our body that's human itself has formed over several yajnas, in the sense, many evolutionary cycles and different processes by which a human body was formed. And we would be in touch with that which our body already has gone through several cycles of evolution. So it's a different form of, say, namaste or pranayama, you say, yeah, where it's a where you're honoring where life came from, where a human body came from, the elements that continue to maintain life in our body, that maintains a human body in human form. So it's a different kind of namaste. Yeah. It's a different way how you relate with your own self, where you are born from your family trees, mother's family tree, father's family tree, together came together, you have formed. So in terms of genetics, DNA, there is a mother and father material. So this is a different form of mindfulness. And we tend to sometimes have issues with, oh, my mother did this, my father did this, or, grandparents or neighbors, or we may have complaints and we could have kleshas, they say, disharmony between what we do, what life did to us, apparently, or how different people treated us and how we have turned out to be. And you could say, okay, you have had a fine life, we have had different kinds of life. So comparison, competition, jealousy, they even call it as seven cardinal sins, where you go through embarrassment, shame, and different kind of experiences from just sometimes paying attention to your body. There may even be guilty pleasure simply paying attention to body. And to that extent, we may be separate from either from ourselves or from people who took care of us or didn't take care of us. But nevertheless, we are alive. We are, for example, listening to this video. And howsoever life has showed up, you are here listening to this video. And when you're going a little icky gooey about just paying attention to your body, to that extent, you may be distant from how life showed up to the point that you're sitting here watching this video. To that extent, you may be distant and not in yoga. There may be bridges to be gapped or gaps to be bridged. Before you can be, life is good, other people are good, I'm good too, yeah, live and let live. And furthermore, to do things which will then support not just you, people around you, future generations also to do well. Because if you're having a little concern about either yourself doing well or people around you doing well or future generations doing well because of your experiences, then to that extent, you're distant from um, health, well being, wellness, what is possible from you having come into existence with the gifts that you have, which may or may not have found expression because there are these different kleshas. Yeah, it gets you into little discomfort about future generations having what you have. You don't want to, which means to that extent, you have treasures. They call it trauma. Okay, let's just say it is like raw material. Okay, and you could eat raw material in the sense you have tomatoes and potatoes and all of that. And that also has a certain thing to it. Or you could cook them and it becomes different kinds of dishes. Now, the word trauma has the word uma in it. Now, Uma is said to be a goddess in, at least in South Indian, in the Indian pantheon of Indian way of thinking, Indology. Now you could say, oh, trauma, things happened, things didn't work. But maybe that hasn't been cooked. You haven't worked through the details, sorted out. There are things, it may be like raw material. Things happen and it's still there in your treasure box, in your past life experiences, like a treasure box, and you're holding it all there. You don't want to look at it because it's there waiting for the right time, kind of. Or if a therapist works with you, or those kinds of things. But consider that they are treasures. In a sense, these are from experiences of life as lived. It could be from this lifetime, past lifetime, God knows from where all you come from. Yeah. And it's there, like in the attic or the basement of your house, kind of. Yeah. Or in behind in the cupboards, in the dark corners. And if you're going to work with them, you might notice that there are some treasures within them, like the goddess Uma. Yeah. Then makes your life very different. And you would want to share the essence, no, what became possible because of it, working with it, going beyond it, but how your life is uniquely different than other people's. Because these are all the learnings, the lessons that you have from life as lived. And then how it's kind of like unwrapping the gift. There are experiences, not so good, but these are experiences that makes you and what you have to offer uniquely different from other people. And there could be many such wrapped blessings, curses, what have you. Yeah, things you don't want to look at, many kinds of things. I would recommend try cleaning your house. Yeah, I do that quite often. If I'm just going to take this blur background, it's going to sound a little interesting. But you see that? See the background? My room has gone through several cycles of cleaning. And now it looks like this. It may seem, oh my goodness, so many things. But there are people who may not have that thing written there. Yeah, because they don't know what that is. But that's something that I wrote to remember an experience, a lesson I have, um, something that I can talk about, which people need to be knowing about. And when I look at them often, I remember that that didn't come overnight. That didn't come out of nowhere. Gone through several uh, uh, educational programs, many kinds of discussions with people, different networking groups. And then it's like, you boil rice and then you arrive at something more essential, and then again you do stuff and again. So some of these texts have taken some time to arrive at. Now, these are things that I have that I can share with people. I can read out that, but it may make no sense. So I'll have to explain the content of it. You may have your own life experiences wrapped in, for example, a blurred background. You don't want to look at it. You don't want anybody else to look at it. But they may be gifts which you have, which you then, when you begin to see that there are people, it's not about the traumatic experiences, but you're here listening alive and listening to this. And when you kind of look at the details, it may be something that somebody out there is dealing with a problem, and you have worked through that and are here listening to me. It's not about the life stories, but it's about how your life has in some way come together, or how you have brought yourself together to the point of you listening to this. And that's also yoga, where it takes something to maintain being human. And you're alive and listening to this. And your body is like a whole mass of stories, lots of stories. Yeah. You look like a human, just like everybody else, all human bodies, human beings, different shapes, sizes, gender. But your story is unique to you. And how you came here, how you kept things together, how you lived through different details and came here, that is also yoga. It takes a yogam, it takes something to have what it takes to be here listening to this. Yeah. Because it could be lifetimes. Some people spend lifetimes before they can listen to something like this. Yeah. Because there may be many people who are doing stuff but not speaking online. Yeah. And then I'm talking about taking off the background and not a pretty picture, but hey, this has taken a long time to form. So I cannot say I'm proud of it because I am proud of. But the thing is, don't just say what you're proud of because it might. I don't know. Yeah. Um, should I say guilty pleasure? Yeah. But I'm saying stuff which is not easily heard or found because I can definitely put a different background and you don't get to see it. So people may have dirty secrets, but they may also have gifts and stuff nobody else can know anything about unless they open their mouth. Yeah. So I'm doing a little bit of talking. If this encourages you to just consider some way speaking or trying to write your story or speak it and see what happens. If you don't like the response, then you could go into another little shell. I'm not speaking another word. But if you keep showing up, at least you will be listening to yourself. And maybe how you tell your story changes. Because if nobody else is listening, at least you have yours. And when you keep listening to what's coming out of your own mouth, maybe you may or may not like what's coming out of your mouth, and then you change the story, or you see your own story differently, or you just may like your own voice, and then maybe it's not just you who likes your voice. Because if you're going to post content, um, there is somebody or the other listening. But pay attention to details. But you would have an expression that is not already there out there in the world. And then it's about which direction is your life moving? Which direction would you like your life moving? What are the opportunities that is there? Whom are you following? Whom are you listening to? And how are you processing information? Like, for example, there is YouTube, there is different social media, like the food you choose to eat. What content do you choose to listen to, pay attention to, read, or watch? And that becomes food that then goes inside you and then forms you, has you be a certain kind of a person. And then you can choose which direction would you like your life to move? How would you like to show up? So that's also yoga. The journey, how you become a better person, how your life takes better shape, that's also yoga. So yoga may not just be within a certain paradigm of what you think is um, only what it is. Yeah. It takes something to have a body that's human and like an instrument. But how you then work with what you have is also like a pen. You can write on a tissue paper, you can write on a book, you can write on the wall. Yeah. And or you could sign things, or you can make things happen. You can write stories, and then your life could take shape from there. So choose what food goes into you, but what you speak can then bring about better humanity across boundaries, a better life story, your own life story, um, or bring people together in ways of thinking because these kinds of conversations haven't been had before or are not so much being spoken in terms of. And what's more, you might just make the world a better place to live in from your attempts. Thank you so much for your kind interest. I hope Vaikhari, at least, spoken language, it's not just mantra chanting, but if you can listen to your own words, what you're speaking, what others are speaking, and try and see either they are seeking help by not specifically telling in words, but how they speak. They may be seeking help, or by how they're communicating with others. Either they are causing a problem or they're solving a problem. But either ways, if you can listen to yourself, if you can listen to what people are speaking, we would still be having a better world because a lot of people are not listening to themselves or to each other. And we have concerns from people not listening. Yeah. So that will be faculties of our sensory organ, the same human body. It's not artificial intelligence, it's original intelligence. Listening is an original intelligence faculty. Speaking too is. So, like a phone has several features. These are human body features. Do use your human body features of listening, speaking, listen to your own self, listen to others. Yeah. So, thank you so much for your kind interest. Good day.